Okay. So this is kind of step 6 in the georeferencing and then mapping features on historical aerial photography for chapter 1 of the Advanced GIS book. And so we've now basically georeferenced this old 1958 imagery in southwestern Orem, Utah. And we can see that at that time in 1958, very few subdivisions had been built. Actually live in this one right here. So this is one of the oldest subdivisions in this part of Orem. There's another one over here, but most things are farmland. And so when we do georeference this old sort of aerial photography, we usually are hoping to be able to map from it and quantify geospatial things in the past and compare to the present. And so I'll just show a brief way to do that by creating first lines, and then from those lines where there's shared lines forming multiple polygons, we'll create polygons. This will save us time because each line where two polygons meet will just be one feature. And it will also prevent us from having issues with what are called overlaps, where our two lines from adjacent polygons cross each other, or underlaps where they don't meet and there is unknown mapping area in between. And so those are topology issues. And to avoid those topology issues, we start with lines, we make those lines enclose, and then we create polygons from them. So first thing we need to do is in our project, we could go into our geodatabase, or we could do it right within the project, and we could make a new feature class if we want, and we could call it a line, and we could say, we could call it historical develop land cover. Okay, and it asks you if you want to store route data. I'm not worried about that. That can be useful if the order that you're clicking the lines is like a hiking route or something like that, or a river route. You want to know what's upstream and downstream, or if we're going to store Z coordinates to store 3D data. I'm not really interested in that either, although we could. I'll just leave it as is. And then we just have generic attribute table we can add on to that, so I'm not going to worry about that now. And then, yeah, we're going to use that current coordinate system. That's true. So let's go ahead and finish that. We create the feature class, and then we can edit it. So the feature class has appeared. I can open up its attribute table, and it will have no features within it as of yet. The default attribute has object ID, type of shape, and the length of the line in this case. So to start making lines, we just go to Edit and Create, and then we click on the historical land cover line feature, and then we can start drawing lines. What I'm going to do for drawing my lines is, I don't want to map this whole image in this tutorial, but I just show you how it can be done and how making lines and then polygons will save you time. So I'm going to map, I guess, kind of the northern half of the image to the north of 800 South, to the west of Main Street, and to the east of this canal. And I'm just going to map a couple of feature classes. One is suburban development, so these houses here, and the other is agriculture. And I guess I'll do these little houses as suburban development too, even though they're probably even older historical pioneer homes. So I could go right along the edge of the development with my first line here. And I can make it like a polygon, but it's not going to create a polygon. And do you see how it's snapped to the line there? I can, no, it didn't quite. So then I gotta draw it again. Okay, so I've got a couple of lines there. Let's make these lines more visible. So go to properties, change that thing to, I don't know, big fat yellow line. Okay, so I've created kind of the outline of that little development along 800 South. I guess I'll include the roads as their own feature. So I'll just draw a line all along the road here. And I'll do the same on the other side. And I'm going to bound my polygons on the edge of this road. And to make this work, I have snapping turned on so that I'm always closing these polygons. Now I'm going to just go along the edge of the data here. And I guess I will cross this road. And then I'm going to kind of create the area that I'm going to map and then what I'm not going to map outside of it. And so here's what I'm just drawing the border of my mapping area, basically. And I'm putting some nodes here next to the things that I might want to map the edges of. Try to save myself some clicks there. I guess I should join to this other side. And I was only going to go to Main Street, so let's bring that up to there. Okay, so there's my mapping boundary. I've got one suburban development mapped, and here's another one. So grab the edge of that, call it just like this to where the edge of the development has taken place, at least at this point. There's some subjectivity here. I'm going to call this all suburban development 2. Well, at least to that fence line. And again, I'm mapping the major roads separately, which is why I'm outlining this. I could zoom in and do a little bit better if I wanted to, but right now I'm basically mapping at a 1 to 3000 scale. That's pretty detailed. And given the fatness of my line, maybe it's not quite that detailed, but it's pretty good. Not gonna map each individual house, but just the edge of the community here. So if you're bored of watching me click, you can always skip ahead or move this at like 1.5 speed and zoom ahead to after I have my features and watch from there. But if you want to see kind of follow along to my choices, you can do that too. Might regret having mapped so much, but it's what it is. Where does this road end? I'm just gonna call it like that. And we'll say the road goes all the way down like this. It's not quite finished, but good enough. Okay, so this is all suburban development enclosed. So is this, so is this. There's a little farmland over there. Okay, so all this is farmland. This is a road here, so let's get that one down. And there's road down to here too. And this side has road. Trying not to overlap my own lines. That's not necessary. That's a waste and will create other topology issues. Okay, got this road covered. Not worried about that road. I'm not going to worry about these little farm paths. So got this road covered. I'm not going past Main. I've got an outside dangle over here. That's okay. That'll go away when we make the polygons. Now we got some other little suburban developments to cover here, or people's farmhouses, not sure which. It's gonna do this pretty rough. I'm gonna call this road as is that, and I'm gonna call this development all the way to here. Here's another little development area. Somebody's little kitchen garden, not real ag. Here's another one. I'm going to continue that up just to save some clicks. And here's one. Here's one. So basically, we're just mapping out what's farmland versus what's dwelling area here back in 1958. And we could then maybe compare that to the present if we have the ability to map the same sort of thing on the present. And you can imagine that there's not much farmland today. Okay, so many little developments, individuals. Double click to finish your line. Okay, here's another little one. Treat all those the same. And map so much. Some of the farm fields go into their front yard. Don't know what's under this reject sign, so just not going to map it. Guess I've got some little gardens here that maybe I should have separated, but I'm not going to worry about that. Oh, it's just example. All of this development. And so this one is all farmland in between there, farmland in between there. Here's that. That kind of looks like a barn, but map it anyway. Oh, don't want to double over things. And here's one. And then I'm not mapping over there. And I'll map here, this person's house. There's one here. Here too. So that's it. I've covered all, oh no, maybe not that one. Surrounded by trees. All of the home sites, and the rest is farmland. So those are my lines. And so if I go back to the edit area, I've enclosed all of those. If I should now press save and save all those edits. Okay, and also clear. So those are the features. Let's see how many lines we have. We have 53 lines that I created separately. Okay. Now this is just historical land cover lines. Now we want to create polygons now. And so the next step will be go to analysis tools, and the toolbox is in conversion tools, I'm pretty sure. And we are going to a feature class to shapefile. I think that will work. So we're basically taking the features that we have. This might not be quite right. Hold on. Is it data management tools? Feature class. Well, that's why we have the help. Okay. Line features to polygons. There it was. Feature to polygon under data management tools. If you ever need to search for what you're doing and you want to see where it is, you can click on that box. It'll show you it was in data management tools under features, feature to polygon. Okay, so we input our historical land cover lines, and we're going to output historical land, and we can just call it polygons. Now, preserve attributes, fine. We don't really have any at this point. We don't have labels for the features, so we won't worry about that. We're going to output in the same coordinate system. And when you do this, to make it work, you need to make sure nothing is, either everything is selected or nothing selected. If you have one thing selected and it's like one line, you'll get a null result. You won't get any features. And so you need to either have them all deselected or all selected. So they're all deselected right now, so this should work. I'm gonna hit run. And boom, let's turn off our yellow lines, and we can see that we've got polygons. Did they all work? I think so. I don't see any yellow that's not matching up. Okay, so let's see how many polygons we got. And we can arrange them by shape, area, sort, descending. But yeah, we have a total of 43 different polygons. Okay, so then to do any math on them, we'd need to have some attributes. So this was a very quick and easy way, hopefully you saw, to create all of these different polygons. And I have roads, farmland, and suburban. Okay, so let's create a field, and we're going to call it a class, and we'll call it a text so that we can just give it a name. And I'll say save. Now go back to map, and I can basically make this a little bit simpler. We could just click on one of these right? Whoops, I need to select it, not click on it. So if I go back to map and go to select, I select that feature, and I know that that is development. Okay, that's great. I have to click 43 times and call them all of that, type it in if I do that route. But I kind of know what's going on here, so I'm gonna select first all the roads. So there's one road, and then I'm gonna go to selection options, and I'm going to click this add to the current selection. So whatever I click on is just gonna come part of the selection. There's the other road. Oh, that one I don't want. So I have to go back to remove from current selection and be careful. Now I have to go back to add to current selection. I probably could have done undone there. Zoom in a little bit more so I can get that road. So that's it. Those are my roads. And so if I right click now, I can say calculate field, and the ones that are selected, not the overall class that you see, but all those selected will be can be operated on at once. So we could just say that class for these equals road and apply. That should did not work. Hold on. Oh, I probably have to put their text. Let's see. No, that didn't work. Did when I went back to Python. Okay, so I had to put a single quote around it to enter them as text. So my roads are covered. Okay, now other things that aren't roads, we can kind of um, let's clear our selection. And then let's also go to symbology and let's do unique values by class. And so now we can see what we've already covered and what we have not. Okay, so all the small ones I know are development. So this becomes pretty easy. So I can select this big one here, and I can select that big one and this big one. And I remember this little one being also agriculture. And that should be it. So let's go to right click, calculate field. Now we're going to change it from quote road, just on those selected ones, to agriculture. Fine. Okay. Cool. Um, okay, so my agriculture, I don't like that color. Let's make it green. Sickly green, but green. Okay, and then the rest, the null is what we want also to be development. So we can then select all those nulls. If we're smart, go back to select by attributes. And first, let's clear, and then let's select where the class field is null. Oh goodness, how do I do null? Do I just type null? Usually you can select what are the options. Let's see if that works. No, that did not work. Select by attributes where class, oh, it is, there we go. Did it do it? Did not. New selection where class is null. What am I doing wrong here? Okay, historical land polygons, new selection where class is null. Apply. Create a new selection. New selection class is null. Okay. Didn't work. Interesting. All right. Okay. Well, in that case, I've got another solution. That should have worked. We go to select by attributes. We can instead do this. So we can go into the attribute table, and we can sort ascending, and we can see all the nulls are there. So I can just click that first one and then press Shift and click the last one. And now I've selected all those. Now we want to go and calculate field, and we want it to say development, just like the other one. It's important to type without typos. Otherwise, you get multiple classes. Developments, I can't have development. Okay, that did it. So if we go back to our attribute symbologies, now we don't need to show all other values anymore. And we don't have any nulls. Okay. Refresh this. That's clear. Selection. Where did my OK go? I'm going to go step back to symbol, so single symbol, go back to unique values, and redo this. So we go to class, there they are. Turn off those. And good enough. Okay. Like the OK function has hidden from me. Oh well. That could create a problem later, but it won't here because I'm not making out any sort of kind of overall output like a map. So we're looking at a map, but I'm not basically outputting a map. So here's my map of ag, suburban, and roads. They're a little bit flipped in terms of colors, so let's change that. So we go to color, let's make it a nice, healthy green, a little mustardy. This. And then go back. And suburban, we can make as gray. Maybe that would have been better as roads, but whatever, we'll go to roads. We'll make that black. How about that? Blacktop. Okay, so there's our map of historical land polygons in 1958. Okay, so the beauty of that is we can turn off, um, the historical data and then can look at the modern data. And so we could go click on this and go to the feature layer. We could make it like 70% transparent. We can see what's going on behind it. Maybe that was too much. So we can see some of these individual houses maybe are still there. Yeah, not much ag exists today in that area. But if we wanted, we could kind of redo all of this, right? For the modern landscape, we could build lines around still existing agriculture. There's a little bit right there. Are there any others? Tiny bit right here, right over here. Very little. And so we could compare those then. And the way we could do it, right, is we can go into the attribute table and we've got the shape areas, right? So on and so forth, right? So we could kind of sum up, like if we select by attributes, new selection where class is equal to agriculture, say apply, and we summarize that. Sorry. So we have four things. We have a sum of over 1 million square meters of agriculture. So we could write that down. And we could then go back and we could change the selection to development. And if we then looked at the statistics for that, we'd see that it only comes to a sum of 180,000 ish square meters, as opposed to over 1 million of ag. So back in 1958, this area, which is now mostly urban suburban, was 80% agriculture at that time. And today it's probably on the order of 98% suburban and 2% ag or so. But we could do that math, right? That GIS analysis after mapping our specific polygons. So I hope that you find this tutorial helpful. The main points here is that we can easily build polygons from lines. We have to click fewer total lines because we're going to do it from shared features. Like I could get this little bit of suburbia that was there, and I only had to click this line once and to also get the road and this ag up here. And so by starting with lines and then go to polygons, you save yourself a bunch of clicks. And then the beauty of that is when we zoom in and if we go back to and we clear our selection, these things are perfectly aligned. There's no overlaps, no underlaps. They're perfect polygons. Okay, so that's this tutorial. And so that's all the tutorials for chapter 1. Thank you.